You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
And we are live. Welcome in, everybody, into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. My name is Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always, is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst. He is the one and only Erick Trickel. Mile High, hello, Erick. What's up, my dude? How you doing, man? It's been a pretty interesting week. We've obviously seen the Broncos have a rash of injuries come out here over the last few days, and just with everything going on, frustrating.
Can I just interrupt you for a second and just say, interesting would not be the word choice I'd use for this last week.
It's been pretty rough. It's been pretty rough.
Trying, emotionally draining.
Terrible. It's been pretty awful. Let's just be honest there. I mean, close loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers last Sunday, and obviously
the Broncos. You said Colts.
Close loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week for the Broncos, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was. Man, I'm not on my game right now. Let's just say that. But no, man, with all the Broncos injuries, obviously Drew Lock being down for the next couple of weeks, Courtland Sutton, we learned that he's going to be down for the rest of the year. What's going through your mind right now? What do you think about this Broncos team, just for the immediate future, anyways?
Can I go and become an ostrich? Bury my head in the sand for the rest of the season? No, seriously, I know a lot of people want to bury them and just write them off already. And these injuries, they do suck and they're terrible to have. But I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, are the third best team in the AFC, and the Tennessee Titans are the fifth best team in the AFC. The Buffalo Bills being right there is number 4. And Denver lost to them by a combined 7 points. Yeah. And, I mean, that is with a quarter of their top corner, 2 quarters of their top receiver, five, not even 5 quarters of their top quarterback, 0 quarters from their top edge rusher. And, I mean, their coverage linebacker, he's out. Everybody seems to forget him. And the guy they got to replace him, Mark Barron, he's done. He hasn't played.
Yeah, so, it sounds like Barron might not play at all this year.
Yeah, and so it's like I understand why people want to give up, because obviously you have to figure out how to rebound and overcome those injuries. But doing what they did against 2 of the top teams, and quite frankly, I don't see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a top 6 team in the NFC. The Jets, I think that they're one of the worst teams in the AFC. So I think these next 2 wins, I really do think they can be come wins. But they definitely have their work cut out for them just because of all the weapons that the Bucs have. But man, these injuries there's things they can do to cover for them. But I mean, there's no way you completely make up for the loss of Vaughn Miller or Courtland Sutton. So we'll see what happens. I believe that they can turn it around. I don't think the playoffs will happen, but I can see them going getting 6 or 7 wins.
Well, and honestly, if you think about it with this the first quarter of this Broncos schedule it's just been brutal. Like you said, you have the Tennessee Titans at number 5 in the AFC, at least in your opinion. The Pittsburgh Steelers at number 3, which I agree with that. They are right behind the Kansas City Chiefs, because you know what? Baltimore is playing some amazing football right now. Their defense is a lot better than what Kansas City has. So they're equal. They're easily the top team in the AFC West, in my opinion. But so you got the Broncos losing to both of those teams, the Steelers and the Titans, by a combined 7 points, and they're missing a bunch of key players, and they're close. Like these are close games where the Broncos have opportunities to win in the last 2 minutes. I mean,
just real quick, it's both of these games, they are 1 or 2 plays, and it's a different outcome.
No, yeah, absolutely. And you can argue, the critical situations, which I like to. I do like to, point and blame at the critical situations. The Tennessee Titans game, you have 1st and goal from the 4, and Melvin Gordon only carries the ball 1 time. You have 1st and goal from the 4 again against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he doesn't touch the football at all. And you have a backup quarterback in the game. Like, you're trusting a backup quarterback to make that play. it's a very questionable decision there. And then again, at the end of the game, the Broncos have the 3rd and 2 at the 22-yard line coming out of the 2-minute warning, 3rd and 2, and you go pass, and you run a 5-man protection scheme on 4th down against a team that's blitzing you almost 50% of the time, maybe even over 50% of the time. They're blitzing you so heavily, and you run a 5-man protection scheme on that. It's just putting your players in a better situation to win is a key there. But the Broncos, even throughout all of that and being in these close and critical situations, they're still hanging with these very, very good teams. This defense is playing absolutely spectacular football right now. And without Drew Lock, I mean, Jeff Driscoll, he looked pretty decent, at least in my opinion. He looked at least serviceable as a backup quarterback. And his play alone, especially in the second half, really kept the Broncos in that game. Like, honestly, he made the critical throws when he needed to. He got the offense moving towards the end of the game, got him in position to win. Noah Fant made a hell of a catch on the left sideline there, a bobbling catch, toe tap catch to fall out of bounds. Like, this team is close enough that they're competing with the top teams in the AFC right now, and a couple of bounces the right way, a critical coaching decision, and they can get over the hump. We're 0-2 right now, but 0-2 doesn't seem nearly as bad by watching this Broncos team as compared to when they had Vance Joseph at the head coaching position. Like, with Vic Fangio, at least the Broncos are close.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned the Steelers and how often they blitz, and I'm trying to remember what the number was. I'm trying to find it because we're actually talking about this in our private chat yesterday.
Yep,
I think it was about how often it was for Denver, and I remember seeing seeing Pittsburgh's, and they're number 1, and it was like 61% of the time according to ESPN's thing, and they have a pass rush win rate of 50%. 50%, and that's here's the surprising fact: that's 6th best.
Whoa, my goodness, so that's insane.
That 50% of it is they're winning. And Charlie Beagle, 52%. That's what they said on NFL Network. But I'm thinking of ESPN's, and it was in the 60s. I remember that it was number 1. I want to say it was 61%. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous about it. And I mean, Denver, everybody wants to crap on their line, but the Steelers, a lot of the pressure they got is they brought more pass rushers than there were blockers. 3 of their sacks were guys who came unblocked because there was nobody to block them.
Yep.
It doesn't work. I mean, there's a lot of issues with this team, and they still managed to hang in there. And here's another factor, too, that I can't believe has gone completely unmentioned. How terrible has Denver been going to the East Coast for early games over the last few years? And here they are going to Pittsburgh. I mean, I get it. They're not in – I mean, with everything going on, they're not have full stands or anything like that. But that's still a long road to travel and everything. And Denver has historically done terribly on those, especially the last few years. So it's mind-boggling to me that people want to give up on this Broncos team. I understand it to a degree, but man, they show the fight that you want to see and the resilience that you want to see in a team that's trying to take that next step. And I think that a part of the problem too is that so many people, they want the Broncos to go from the issues they were having from that 2017, 2018, those years, and go immediately to the playoffs this year when it's a work in progress. It takes time. It takes steps. Not everybody can have those 1-year turnarounds like what the Rams did a few years ago and the 49ers did. Honestly, I saw this mentioned somewhere else, and I thought about it, and I realized how true it was. Thanks, James. 64% of the time per ESPN. I knew it was in the 60s, but I forgot my train of thought. Let me see if I can pick it back up. But the thing is they have that fight, and you got to take those steps forward. And this comment that I saw, there we go. This is what it was saying that this year with the Broncos feels a lot like that year with the San Francisco 49ers before they had that big breakout year last year. So this feels like the 2018 San Francisco season because they dealt with a lot of injuries too. I mean, they kept what that was Nick Mullins' year.
Yeah, that was
really discovered Nick Mullins. So
wasn't that the year that they had Jimmy Garoppolo tear his ACL like right at the beginning of the season, and they had to run Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, yeah, like that's what it feels like. It really kind of does.
Into this, and we kind of got to get some orders of business out of the way.
Yeah, we do actually got to get some orders of business, guys. You guys are watching the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow me and Eric on Twitter at Sanderson MHH for me, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Also, guys, follow the pod at DVDD_pod. Also at Mile High Huddle for instant news and analysis, breaking news and film articles, stuff like that on your Denver Broncos. It's also the easiest way to keep in touch with what's going on with the Huddle Up Podcast Network. If you guys are in a chance or in a position financially right now to head on over to huddleuppod.com, get your merch, guys. Get yourself a hat, a t-shirt. There's a coffee cup, face mask, hoodies, something for men, women. There's actually a onesie. I got one on the way for my baby. So there's something to suit anybody's fancy. And if you guys aren't in a position at least to be able to do so, the three things that everyone can do is subscribe wherever you're watching this, on YouTube specifically, because the Mile High Huddle and the Huddle Up Podcast network is growing exponentially, and it really helps us out a lot if you subscribe, like every video you guys see, and share it out to the general public. Share it out to all of Broncos country, because the more eyes we get on this, the better we're going to be able to be for you guys.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Broncos country, listen up. Coors Seltzer isn't your average seltzer. Rooted in Coors' long history of sustainability, is a brand that was inspired by a generation that wants to do good in the world with a mission to restore America's rivers. Coors Seltzer is launching the world's easiest volunteer program, so whatever you're doing, by simply cracking open a can of Coors Seltzer, you're volunteering. Listen, gang, our waterways are at risk. 80% of America's rivers are drying up. Through a partnership with Change the Course, Coors Seltzer is helping to protect and restore America's rivers. Here's how it works. Each pack of Coors Seltzer restores 500 gallons of fresh water to U.S. rivers and the communities that depend on them. And the results? They'll blow your mind. 1 billion gallons of water restored to 16 river basins across the U.S., and that's just year one. And gang, there are 4 refreshing flavors, 1 cool cause. So enjoy naturally flavored black cherry, mango, lemon lime, and grapefruit. And the specs are in. Coors Seltzer is 4.5% ABV, and it's only 90 calories. And Zach, let me tell you, I've got my eye on that black cherry.
Yeah, it's nothing better, Chad. The weather's turning. It's getting cooler. It's football season. Nothing better than kicking back with a Coors. I like the mango personally, but they're all pretty good. Nothing better, Chad.
Join the world's easiest volunteer program by simply drinking Coors Seltzer. You can become a volunteer and restore America's rivers. You buy Coors Seltzer, you help restore 500 gallons of water into America's rivers. It's that simple. So visit CoorsSeltzer.com to find a Coors Seltzer near you. That's CoorsSeltzer.com.
For every 12-pack sold through 8/31/2021, Coors will purchase services from Change the Course to restore 500 gallons of fresh river water. Details at CoorsSeltzer.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Winning season returns at MyBookie. Winning season means doubling your first deposit. Winning season means insane props, epic bonuses, and the craziest cross-sport wagers. At MyBookie, winning season means watching live sports and betting live sports all season long. Rejoice, because the NFL has returned. That means action-packed Sundays and huge cash prizes. Get in on the action, use promo code OVERTIME, and double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play, which is designed to add more excitement to the sports you already love and the games that you bet. Bet with the best this NFL season for your chance to win big. Use promo code OVERTIME and double your first deposit. Your winning season begins today only at MyBookie, and here's the best part. Overtime is going all in for our listeners. We're giving away $500 cash to one lucky person who takes advantage of this offer. When you make your deposit, just take a screen grab of your MyBookie account and email it to overtime@advertisecast.com. That's overtime@advertisecast.com. $500 given away at the end of September.
One other thing that I want to kind of just expand upon is, again, going back to the beginning quarter of the season, you have the Titans, you have the Steelers, and now this week you have the new look Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into Denver.
The Tampa Bay old people's home.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay. That's true. But still, I mean, this is another tough matchup. And Eric, you and I had conversations about that Buccaneers defense, and they have some players at all 3 levels right now. They're not super spectacular on the boundary at the cornerback position, but they've got 2 really good edge rushers. They've got a great nose tackle in Vita Vea, an older guy in Ndamukong Suh that can still wreak some havoc in the running game specifically.
Oh, wait, no, never mind.
But
I thought he was out, but he was just out for today with the non-injury related.
Well, I was just speaking in general here, but then you step back to the next level of the defense, and they have two really good linebackers, and Devon White, who they took in the first round of last year's NFL draft, and Levante David, who has been one of the best three-down linebackers the league has seen over the last decade. I mean, this is year 9 for him, and he has been absolutely spectacular, not only against the run, but in coverage as well. And then, like I said, they're not so great on the boundary, but they do have a rookie safety in Antoine Winfield Jr. that has been playing absolute lights out football for that defense right now. And honestly, the Broncos are going to have to, they're going to have to, their work cut out for them, especially in the trenches. Last week, we saw, 7 sacks, 17 quarterback pressures, at least 10 quarterback hits. And not to say that this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line is going to be able to stand up to what the Steelers were able to do last week. But Shaquille Barrett did lead the league in sacks last year. Jason Pierre-Paul is also a very good pass rusher. And like I said, Vita Vea can clock some stuff up in the front, and he can also get after the passer if his motor will actually allow him to do so. What do you think the Broncos are going to do? Is it finally time to replace Elijah Wilkinson, or are they going to go to some max protect looks? Keep a running back in the backfield? Are they going to bring an extra tight end on the field, run some 12 personnel to try to get Elijah Wilkinson some help? Because the biggest thing that he struggles with is speed off the edge. And Shaquille Barrett has speed off the edge. What do you want to do? How are we going to stop this?
Well, I wouldn't say he has speed off the edge. That's never really been part of his game. What he does well is he converts what speed he has to power.
Yeah.
And that is something Elijah Wilkinson struggles with as well. I don't think that we see him benched. I've said this multiple times. I think I said it last week on the show too. I don't think that they'll bench Elijah Wilkinson until after the Jets game. I think that they want to give them 4 games to gel, because people have to really forget that how important chemistry is on the offensive line. You really have to have chemistry down with the guy next to you, because a lot of what you do relies on feel. Passing off blocks, that's a big thing with having the right feel with the guy next to you.
Right.
And with the Broncos watching them and really breaking down their offensive line, that's their biggest issue, especially in the run game, is they're doing a terrible job passing off blocks. And when they do a good job at it, it's a good run. We saw that a couple times against Pittsburgh, especially early on, before the Pittsburgh Steelers completely lost all respect for the Broncos deep ball after Drew Lock got hurt. So there's a lot that you can consider. And the thing is those 2 linebackers that they have, and Antoine Winfield, they're good. Their corners are okay. They're nothing really they're solid corners. They're guys that you're fine with having as starters. Their other safety, he's like that as well. I mean, I spent a lot of time watching them, preparing for this game and everything, and it's just they're not bad. I mean, real quick on the defensive line too, Jason Pierre-Paul and Vita Vea, both those guys, they can be good, but they're so inconsistent anymore.
Yeah.
Super inconsistent, especially Vea. My God, is he so inconsistent. But the what you have to balance is out, and we kind of talked about this on the reverse end, or the opposite end of this, is when you're trying to protect the quarterback, you have to be able to have your receivers get open. So if Jerry Judy, Noah Fant, KJ Hamlin, if they're able to get open, you can kind of free up to bring in another blocker. But if they're struggling to get open, then you kind of go to that more quick passing game. So it really depends on how they do in that aspect, on if they're able to bring in another guy to help pass protect or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is actually the question I was going to pull up. Thanks, John. The over/under of 1.5 sacks for Shaq, is that probably pretty real? And honestly, I firmly believe it is. Elijah Wilkinson has done nothing to prove to me that he can actually protect against Shaquille Barrett. Honestly, they went against each other in practice for a couple of years, but at the same time, Shaquille, what he does is, like you said, converting speed to power. He does have a pretty decent first step, can bend a little bit and get around the edge. I don't know that Elijah Wilkinson's going to be able to hold up. They're going to have to do something for him. 1.5 sacks. I'd probably take the over on that. I'm predicting two sacks for Shaquille Barrett this week.
My question is, and thanks WWE for the donation.
Thank you, WWE.
We appreciate that. My question is Shaq Barrett a one-year wonder? Because he hasn't been nearly as good this year. He hasn't been nearly as consistent getting pressure on the quarterback. he's doing a solid job, but it's a job of a depth player, not a starter, not that franchise tag player that he got. So that's something that I really kind of want to see. I'll take the over on that, but I'm not comfortably taking the over.
Yeah. Speaking of overs and unders, guys, today's episode is brought to you in part by sportsbetting.com. Head on over to sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle for a 100% risk-free week of betting for up to $500. So speaking of over-unders, that is. Eclipse coming in here with a $2 super chat, just showing some love from Philly. Hashtag state of being. What's up, Eclipse? Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's see here. Going back to Greg, what's up, dude? How we doing? Good evening, man. Cody Potter in here with a $5 super. Thanks, Cody, for joining us tonight. Remember, Tom Brady lost to Danny Cannell. Why not add Jeff Driscoll to that list? I believe in this team to make a comeback. They are better than that. And again, like we said in the opener here, Cody, you're absolutely correct, dude. This Broncos team is a lot better than what we're getting out of them, especially late in the game. Defensive gaffes over the first, at least, this is now 18 games for Vic Fangio, 7-11 record. Defense has actually been playing very good throughout the game, but they also have given up a lot of very key and critical possessions to opponents and allowed them to march down the field for game-winning field goals on multiple games. Gave up a 20-0 lead at halftime against the Minnesota Vikings last year as well. Obviously the Tennessee game, this team is a lot better than that, and it's just. You got to see the bounce back, and you got to see some of these role players step in. And KJ Hamler and Jerry Judy. Speaking of Jerry Judy, we'll get to that here in just a second. KJ Hamler and Jerry Judy, they got to get open quick, like you said, Eric, and they've got to try to win quickly in the down and try to get at least some of this pass rush away from Jeff Driscoll, and he's got to be able to hit his shots. There was a couple of good throws he had, but there are also a couple of ones where like that. It was, I believe, an overthrow to Noah Fant in the end zone against Pittsburgh. Like that's a throw you have to make 99 times out of 100 at the NFL level, and Jeff Driscoll just doesn't make them. He leaves the ball too high. So if the Broncos do want to replicate that and continue to show Tom Brady the losing side of his efforts at Mile High Stadium, then Jeff Driscoll is going to have to play a lot better. Like he really is.
I wouldn't say just Jeff Driscoll. I think everybody has to. There's a lot of players that are getting a lot more time because of injury, and they all got to step up. I mean, Michael Ojemudia, I know he's getting killed for his game last week, and it's rightfully deserved, but he only gave up 3 bad plays. Yeah. But those are 3 plays that really could have helped change the outcome of the game. He gave it that long touchdown to Chase Claypool, which Chase Claypool did push off, guys. He did. It was a good no call because it wasn't enough to really affect it because he still had a step on Michael Ojemudia. But the interception, the missed tackle on 3rd down, those are the 2 plays I'm really looking at as kind of bad plays by him. And then you add in the fact that Alexander Johnson took away his first career interception with the stupid penalty. Yeah. And a penalty that was really wishy-washy as well. So that's something to think about too. And it's just everybody's got to step up. And I think that the message is inside the building that they know that, and it's just a matter of going out there and executing. There is one thing that I can say for certain is that this team has not given up. They're going to continue to go out there and fight, and they're going to continue to strive for the win. And this week, that's part of the reason why this week I think they pull it off, is just they're getting close. They just got to take that final step. But we have a couple super chats here, and I just kind of want to get the backlog of these out of the way. Eclipse Stormborn came in with a $2 donation saying peace and hearts from Philly, hashtag state of being. Thank you, Eclipse. I saw it later. Let's see here. Where is it? I got to find it. Did it come in earlier? There we go. Almost forgot the anthem. Never fickle on the nickel, big pickle, Erick Trickel. Thanks, Eclipse, man. Really appreciate that, as always. And every time you come in, man, you always bring a smile to my face. Benji Clay came in and said with the $4.99 donation. Thank you, Benji.
Thanks, man.
First time seeing you, I think, as a super chat.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a new one.
So thank you. I mean, it's always nice to see new faces and everything.
Yeah, welcome, man.
Or new names, I guess, would be the better way to put it. But anyways, off topic, it's a contract year for Sutton, right? How much are you willing to pay? Is he going to want a big contract? Does he deserve it? Technically, no. Cortland Sutton is eligible for an extension after this year, but he still has one more year left on his rookie contract. with the injury and him missing basically all but 2 quarters of the season, I don't see him pushing for a contract extension this year. I think he'll wait for it and see how he comes back and everything. Because if he does push for it, that'd be a mistake on his part because he's injured. You're not going to be able to see what he is. As for how much we give him and everything like that, I really wanted to see and depend on what we have happen next season as well. Kevin Peterson came in with a $5 donation. Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate that as always. NFL should have fined Vic for horrible coaching. Forget the mask. Can't say I disagree. That play clock management at the end of the Titans game was abysmal.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Broncos country, gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado, and if you want to get in on the action, you got to check out sportsbetting.com, where you got sharp odds and low juice, in-house bookmakers. They're not a third-party provider of odds. Reduced juice, best prices, and it's hassle-free bonuses with a one-time rollover, which means the bonus money is yours after you bet it one time. Other sites range from 5 to 30 times, and you get 24/7 live customer support, always a real person in the United States. And here's the best part. Sportsbetting.com is offering a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $500, not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com will cover 100% of the difference up to $500 with a one-time rollover. Head on over to sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle. That's sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle and get in on the action.
Hey, Darian, nice to see you here. Charlie Beagle, nice to see you as well. Let's see here. Who else is there? Special teams is an oxymoron. Yeah, the special teams has been kind of bad, which is ironic to me because a lot of people were praising the unit, saying that it was going to be super great this year. And I kind of had my doubts, and my doubts were kind of more of a I'll believe it when I see it. And Sam Martin was supposed to be coming and fix the punting, but he's been just as inconsistent as Colby Wadman has been. Brandon McManus, anything over 50, you can't trust them to make. So definitely very questionable. Special teams has been an issue. Chris Hernandez comes in with the $5 donation. Thank you, Chris. He says, if you include the 7 points the Titans could have had, the defense is giving out close to 25 points per game. Can they tighten it up Sunday? The thing is if you include those points that they could have had, well, then what about the interception that the Broncos could have had against the Titans?
Yep.
Or the interception they could have had against the Steelers? What it could have, should have are kind of not a great thing to play when it comes to the scores because there's always different things into it. I mean, against the Titans, what if Jerry Judy caught those 2 passes that he dropped?
Yeah.
I mean, one of them was he makes one guy miss, and it's a touchdown. The other one was a key third down, or was a first down that would have given them a new set of downs. So you can always play that. I think the defense is still getting better. The big thing is that all 3 corners that are seeing a lot of playing time are new, so to speak. Bryce Callahan, he didn't play last year, so I'm considering him new. Then you have 2 rookies back there. Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson, they're trying to make up for a lot. Josie Jewell, he's back to starting. He's got to get chemistry down with Alexander Johnson. Then you have basically a pass rusher who missed 12 games last year. Then you have another 2 pass rushers that they're solid depth, but there's forced to start. Then you have a defensive line that is actually doing pretty well. And Jarrell Casey is new to it. So there's a lot that's still being worked out with this defense. I definitely think that they can turn things around with them. And then last one that I saw here.
Hold on, I want to interject here really fast. If you want to play the what-if game on the 7 points that the Titans could have had, why don't you play the what-if game on the 7 points that the Broncos could have had? The fourth down situation, 4th and 1, they run a shovel pass. Say Jake Butt makes a guy miss, scores a touchdown. The Broncos still win that game. What about if Elijah Wilkinson against T.J. Watt doesn't get burned completely and obliterated off of the snap and gets Drew Lock to have to scramble out to his right where Bud Dupree comes back and sacks him from behind. If Elijah Wilkinson holds tight right there, KJ Hamler ran an absolutely beautiful stick route right there. Then turned it into a crossing route. He was so wide open. Seriously, guys, he was so wide open. If Drew Lock puts the ball anywhere close to him, it's a touchdown. On the play that Drew Lock would have gotten hurt. That's 7 points. The Broncos win that game. So you can play the woulda, coulda, shoulda all you wanted to, and you can question the decision-making and stuff like that, question the plays and stuff. What if Michael Ojemudia picks off that ball in the end zone? Like that play right there literally led to, the next play actually was 3rd and 10, and Michael Ojemudia missed a tackle on Juju Smith-Schuster out on the left flat that turned into a first down situation, 1st and goal for the Steelers, and they punched in a touchdown right there. If Michael Ojemudia makes that interception, they don't score that touchdown. The Broncos win the game. Like you can play the woulda, coulda, shoulda all you wanted to, and you can play the hindsight. What the thing is though. It's the culmination of the entire game, guys. Like I want to really see some change from the Broncos up front, especially up at the high levels, especially specifically to Pat Shurmur and his play calling in some of these critical situations. But the woulda, coulda, shoulda game doesn't mean anything. Like it really doesn't. You can argue all kinds of different ways. What if Melvin Gordon doesn't fumble the football on that swing pass and set up the Tennessee Titans at the 22-yard line where they run down and score a touchdown to match the Broncos? Like there's so many different aspects of it. As far as physical play on the field, you can't really question that. Now, the decision-making behind that, I think you can, and I think you have a valid argument there.
Anyways, we have this other super chat from Christopher Do44 with $2. Says, love my Dove Valley Deep Divers. Hit those likes. Definitely, guys. Click those thumbs up.
We appreciate that.
And Christopher, hey, we love the Dove Valley Deep Divers too.
Yeah, it's my favorite podcast. I wonder why. Now, Eric, I want to go back here for just a minute and go back to that question about Courtland Sutton. Sorry, guys, I had to bounce out for a second. I was having some glitchy issues and was getting skipped out for a minute. I'm hoping that didn't actually affect you guys on your side. But with Courtland Sutton being in the contract year and everything like that, let's just go into another part of the conversation that, Eric, you and I wanted to talk about tonight as far as what does salary cap mean and why that doesn't actually equal cash. So the Broncos right now, they have $30 million in cap space, and they have an opportunity to go out and they can bring in a veteran if they need to get. Obviously, they just went and brought in Blake Bortles. 1-year vet minimum deal didn't really cost them anything, but they could go out and they could trade for like a Miles Jack. They could go out and they could trade for another insert key player here to try to bolster this defense or take away from some of the injury issues that the Broncos have right now. But the problem is, just because you have $30 million in cap space doesn't mean you have $30 million in cash space, like cash flow. You have to have that money on hand. So with Courtland Sutton and with Justin Simmons, we saw this last year, the Broncos don't necessarily have the cash on hand. You have to have that money up front. You have $175 million in salary cap that you can use. You can spend that money. But if you don't have the money to actually spend, you can't write a check to anybody. Like that's a hard thing. Like I wanted to run this analogy by you. Like say I make $50,000 a year, hypothetically speaking. I make $50,000 a year. Okay, cool. But I want to go out and buy a $40,000 boat in cash. I don't have that kind of funds because my $60,000 a year comes out or $50,000 a year comes out over the course of a 12-month period. Like I don't have that money in hand right now. I can't just say, all right, I'm going to drop 40 grand on a brand new boat or a brand new car or whatever you might have. So the Broncos, they have $175 million in cap space for the year. They have $30 million in cap space right now. That doesn't mean they have $30 million that they can just drop on a brand new contract for a Justin Simmons. Doesn't mean they have the $30 million to drop on a brand new contract for Courtland Sutton either. Like there's got to be money in hand to be able to write that check, guys.
Yeah, and on that note too, is like what people don't realize is when a team signs a player to a contract, all the money that's in that contract, even money that's not fully guaranteed, goes into escrow. So if they sign a player like the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes, that extension, all the money in that extension has to go into escrow. So you have to have that money on hand already, even though it's not getting paid to the player right away, to be able to put into escrow. If you don't have that money on hand, you can't do that contract. It's a thing that the Broncos kind of got hit with this a few years ago. Everybody knows about it. The whole thing with the end of the late 90s with the stadium and the deferring payments for Elway and Terrell Davis. It's a way of not working around the salary cap. So you got to have that money on hand to put into escrow for the full contract. So, I mean, Graham Glasgow, they just signed him to that big deal. All the money for that is in escrow. All the rookie contracts, all that money, that's in escrow. So if you go out and you sign a player they have $30 million in cap space, right? They can go out there and they can sign a player to say 4 years, $40 million. Because say that's a flat rate, $10 million average per year basis. Just make it real simple. they could do that. But they have to have that $40 million in cash to be able to put into escrow. That's a big issue that the Broncos are having, and that comes because they don't have an owner. So it's not going to be shocking if eventually the NFL forces the sale of the team, because all these legal issues that they're going on, it doesn't really look good for the NFL, and they do care about their image a little bit. So you might see it happening. Maybe the legal issues pan out, and the Bolin daughter that's working with the team right now, I can never remember which one it is. Brittany. Maybe Brittany ends up taking ownership over it. Some's got to change, though. They need to have a set owner in hand. They need to be able to bring those funds back into the team.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to be able to kind of understand that. And like, you got to think, they don't get just like a lump sum. Okay. Like here's $175 million. No, that's the money they're allowed to spend, and that's the culmination of the entire 53-man roster. And if they don't have the cash to be able to do something like that, it's not going to happen. And until we see some kind of resolution with either Brittany or Beth Bolin Wallace, or say Robert F. Smith wants to come in and buy the team, if that's what's going to end up eventually happening, like you've got to be able to have that. And like, you go back and you look at the Kansas City Chiefs and what they just did with Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes. They just went and paid $500 million to Patrick Mahomes over the next 10 years. Like, he got $500 million. The Hunt family, the Lamar Hunt family, that family is worth like $15.3 billion. They have that money on hand, and they can afford to put that in there. They don't have only assets in the Kansas City Chiefs. They have cash flow coming in from other entities. I don't know exactly what they are, but the Bolins, if I'm wrong on this, correct me, Eric, but I believe that Pat Bolin got his money from his father in like Canadian oil, or something like that. I can't exactly remember, but like when he came in and bought the Broncos back in 1984, yeah, he was plenty rich back then. That's all dried up now. The only money that the Broncos have is what the NFL gives them through revenue and through fan sales, TV contracts, and stuff like that. They don't have extra money on hand to just dump into the team. They can't do that. And
guess what team's going to be hurt the most by the current situation with no fans in the building?
The Denver Broncos. Yep, the Denver Broncos.
So, moving on real quick, there's a couple more comments here that I want to see. And I do want to say, Charlie Beagleman, some of the comments you've made tonight have been hilarious.
Yeah, got me rolling.
I've definitely been seeing them, man. They're definitely been really good.
I got a super chat
Isaiah
here.
Says, go ahead.
I was gonna say I got a super chat here from Isaiah. Thanks for joining us tonight, Isaiah. That's a new name as well. We got a lot of new names in the stream tonight. We need to pound the rock. Gordon needs 20-plus carries. And honestly, I will tend to agree with you on this one, especially in this game. With Jeff Driscoll starting, obviously, you've got Jerry Judy. Jerry Judy's actually hurt, guys. Like, let's be real here. He suffered a rib injury. He's questionable. He was listed as questionable on the injury report today. Sounds like he's probably going to be a go in the game. Hopefully he doesn't run into that Los Angeles Chargers doctor. Please, God, don't let something like that happen. But no, rib injury, they'll do whatever they got to do, wrap him up as well as they can. Just tell him to go and be tough. But Jerry Judy's going to be somewhat, I imagine, limited with that rib injury. That leaves Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler and Deshaun Hamilton, guys. Like, the Broncos receiving core is kind of decimated right now with injuries. Tyree Cleveland, we would probably see a healthy dose of him this week as well. But the easiest way to make things easy on your quarterback is by controlling the clock and running the football. Don't let yourself get into mismanageable down and distance situations, like no second and longs, third and longs, and have a tight end that can offer an explosive play over the middle of the field and a reliable safety valve. And fortunately, the Broncos have both of those things. They have a quality running game. Melvin Gordon may not have broke 100 yards, but they did break 100 yards as a team against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. Melvin Gordon had 19 carries, I think like 79 or 80 yards, something like that. Royce Freeman had a couple of really nice runs in there as well, so just to get over 100 yards. But then they also have Noah Fant, who has been probably the Broncos' most explosive offensive player and their best offensive player in 2020 so far this season. And the biggest thing is I actually have an article live on milehighhuddle.com right now, guys. Go check it out. 5 key matchups for that the Broncos need to win in order to win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. Noah Fant versus Levante David needs to be a big key here. You've got to figure out a way to keep Noah Fant involved for all 4 quarters, all 60 minutes of this game. Because if you don't, and he disappears like he did in the second half and the second half of the Titans game and the first half of the Pittsburgh game, if he disappears like that and doesn't have a safety valve operation for Jeff Driscoll to throw the football to, like this is going to be. It's going to be bad, like really, really bad. Like they've got to figure that out and figure out a way to scheme Noah Fant into the game plan.
Well, one big thing for getting Noah Fant more included throughout the whole game, get him to figure out how to defeat bracket coverage. That's
a good point too.
And Chris comes in to clarify what he was saying. He said it's not a what if question. The point is the defense is giving up 20+ points from sloppy play. Can they get that tightened up? I wouldn't say it's sloppy play. It's just saying that there is some really good plays by the offense, and just some here and there. There is a little bit. I mean, the dropped interception by Michael Ojemudia and his missed tackle on third down. Both those set up 1 touchdown, and they just got beat deep. There's one of the things is with this, and I mentioned this earlier too, is that there's a lot of new pieces on this defense, and a lot of guys who are starting next to new blood, and not necessarily new, like in the case of Alexander Johnson and Josie Jewell. Those two haven't played together, and the communication there, like they even said it's improving, but it's not quite where they want it to be. And that's just happening with the whole defense. Once that gets down, I think this defense will start really tightening up. I think we start seeing it this week. I mean, but yeah, I think they can definitely get it tightened up, even without some of the players that they have, without Draymond Jones, without Von Miller, without AJ Boye, without those guys. I think we can definitely see it up. They're getting close, and they're getting really close to some big plays too for the defense. They just got to get over that edge a little bit. And then Levi Hope comes in. He said with the $24.99 donation. Levi,
thanks,
thank you,
Levi,
man. We appreciate that.
Man.
He says, "What's up, fellas? What letter grade would you give our defense and rookies so far?" I'd give a C+ for the defense, and I'd probably give a C- D+ for the rookies.
Yeah, I was going to say probably a B- for the defense and a C+ for the rookies. Michael Ojemudia and the struggles that he has had so far has been pretty rough. Lloyd Cushenberry also had a really bad game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but Ojemudia showed me a lot in that Titans game, and I was really impressed with him. Not so much impressed with him as a tackler against the Steelers. He missed that one tackle. There was another one, Eric, you and I kind of talked about. It was actually before the missed interception play where Ojemudia was targeted on a hitch route or something on the outside in the boundary and came and crashed on Juju Smith-Schuster on the outside. And rather than wrapping up in open field, he actually went for a big hit and just laid the wood, and it didn't bring his arms back around and wrap up. And Juju was able to actually stay on his feet, but he was knocked off balance enough to step out of bounds. Now, we saw it actually later. And in fact, when I was in the live game thread on milehighhuddle.com and I commented immediately after that play. I said, if Michael Ojemudia doesn't learn how to wrap up immediately, Juju's going to burn him. And it actually was like a few plays later, Juju actually did burn him. It was a kind of a rough angle for Ojemudia to get, but it looked like he didn't get wrapped up all the way, and Juju just ran him over and forced a first down in a goal-to-go situation. So you've got to see a little bit better tackling from him. We're going to see McTelvin Najim this week from the sound of it. Like, obviously, you've got DeMarcus Walker's out. You've got Draymond Jones is out. They brought up, what's his name? The Deshaun Williams, I think is his name, that interior defensive lineman that they've had on the roster where the practice squad, 4 or 5 different times. So they obviously see something in him. So McTelvin Najim, we'll see what he looks like. Lloyd Cushenberry in the running game has been hit and miss. In the passing game, he really struggled against Casey Hayward or Cameron Hayward, and Stephon Tuitt last week. But against the Titans, he actually looked really good. I was pretty impressed with him. And then the rookie wide receivers, KJ Hamler looked phenomenal against the Steelers. So I'm going to boost that up just a little bit there. Because you didn't see the drop issues. He was getting open constantly. The speed was there. He didn't have the one drop. But then he went up for a deep shot, went over the top, almost made a hell of a catch. Was open all the time. The speed was there. It was really good. Jerry Judy has been really hit and miss. I've been really kind of disappointed with him, but I probably should have known that with the drop issues. But outside of that, really the defense itself is doing exactly what you kind of figured was going to happen with the defense at bend but don't break defense from Vic Fangio, allowing a lot of stuff over the middle of the field. This is a big key to me, especially this week. The crossing routes on play action, the slants, the digs, the crossing routes, and everything like that you get that are wide open in Vic Fangio's defense, because that's what he wants you to do. He wants you to take the dink and dunk stuff. He wants you to take the stuff over the middle of the field, let his defense rally, make the tackle. He'll give up some yards, but when things get condensed, and that's why the Broncos defense is, I think, number 3 in the NFL right now in the red zone. Like, when things get to condensed and there's not a whole lot of space for everybody to kind of work around, that's when this defense does its thing. And it's hard for me to hate on it because I understand what they're trying to do. But at the same time, I really wish that this defense would get a little bit more aggressive, especially with the injuries in the secondary, the youth in the secondary. They've got to figure out a way to manufacture some pressure, and not with just 4-man rushes and tackle end stunts, some twists and stuff like that. Like, you've got to figure out a way to blitz a little bit here and bring some extra guys. What is it? The Broncos are bringing 5 guys on 16% of their defensive snaps right now. That's like way less. They were like 25% of the time last year. So 16% of the time this year is way less than what they were last year. I can't remember exactly what you said in our group chat about like where that ranks statistics. I know it's towards the middle of the league. It was like 26th or 27th. They're 16. It was like 16.1%. Yeah, which they've got to start figuring out a way to manufacture some pressure, and that was something that you and I talked about last week. Going into the Steelers game, you have Kevin Dotson, who's a rookie right guard starting his first NFL start, and you have Chukwuma Okorafor playing right tackle, who has played sparingly over the course of his 2-year career, and the Broncos got 0 pressures against those guys. They handled all those end games and all the stunts, and they blocked really well up front. And they kept Ben Roethlisberger clean. The Broncos only hit Ben Roethlisberger 3 times and only got 1 sack in that game. Like, when you have backup players in the game,
Mike Purcell.
Yeah, exactly. It was Mike Purcell. They got it on a botched screenplay. Like, when you have players out like that, and there's an advantage that you can take, like there's a mismatch you can take advantage of with backup offensive linemen. When you have Jarrell Casey and Draymond Jones, Shelby Harris that can go and get after the passer, you have to figure out a way to manufacture some pressure against those guys and stop just bringing 4 rushers. Like, you've got to do something and be like, not necessarily like the Steelers and blitzing 64% of the time, but you've got to bring an extra guy and make them have that lack of communication. Let them have an extra rusher coming up and manufacture some pressure, because if you don't get after Tom Brady this week and you let him have those dink and dunk shots, those slant routes, those crossing routes, the dig routes from Mike Evans that he hasn't really been doing this year, which is crazy.
He's run 1.
But those dig routes, those in routes, the crossing routes over the middle of the field, Tom Brady's going to pick this defense apart. Like, if they don't get after him up front and get some pressure on him and bring some guys forward in the defense, Tom Brady's going to pick them apart and drive up and down the field on them all the time.
But here's the issue you have is if Tom Brady's going to pick them apart in coverage, he's going to do it quickly. And if you bring an extra guy, it's just making it even quicker. Yep. So if you want to blitz, this is what we were talking about in our private chat, is if you want to blitz, your coverage guys need to be able to hold their own. They got to shut down those quick passes. They're not. So even when Denver does blitz, it's not effective because the quarterback's just able to get the ball out so quickly.
Well, this actually adds, this actually adds into that point, and something that I said in our group chat as well. I miss Wade Phillips, because if you're going to bring some pressure, you got to play some press man coverage up front. And Vic Fangio with his quarters defense doesn't like to do that. Well,
play press zone,
press 3, but still, it looked a lot like press man. Still, you got to play some press coverage and knock some guys off the line of scrimmage. That's my point.
And here's the biggest thing with Vic Fangio: if you want to blitz, don't have it be Alexander Johnson every single time.
Yeah, no doubt.
Have some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Mystique? That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, some mystique, some.
Don't make your blitz
disguise. Like, have some
disguise it a little bit. Hey, have that corner, have a song bossy come off the edge a little bit. Hey, there you go.
This was why for the Bucs coming in here and saying Ojemudia can't be 10 yards off the line. Well, when he got burned by Chase Claypool on that was when he started to step back. But still, you're right.
And here's the thing: is that they're never going to be close in Vic Fangio's defense. That's not what they do. They don't play press. No. That's not what they do. And mysteriousness. Thank you, Peter. Sorry, it's been a long week for me. Is you can't ask the coaches to completely change their foundation of their scheme that they've been coaching for years. Pat Shurmur, you want to change the offense? He's not going to change it so drastically because that's what he's done for so many years. Vic Fangio is the same way. They're not going to sit there and suddenly go and press all of a sudden. I agree they should do it a little bit more often, but it's not going to happen all the time. So you just got to figure out that balance. Everything, it's all about working in unison, and it can be annoying. And I mean, I say this quite a bit too, is that great coaches, they adapt to what your players can do. Vic Fangio, he's the type of coach that he wants to get players that can fit his defense. That's what he's been working on doing. It's caused them to miss out on some good players in the draft, but it is what it is. You got to deal with what you got, and they're doing okay, but it's still a matter of getting things down and communication down. That can't be underestimated, especially when you have a new play caller on defense too.
Yeah, that's true. The one thing that you had actually said to me in our group chat as well was that you have to win some one-on-one matchups every now and again on the defensive side of the football. Like Jurrell Casey, just going back to that matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jurrell Casey rushed the majority of the time against a rookie right guard making his first NFL start and had 0 pressures. 0. Like that's
to be fair, Kevin Dotson played excellent.
Kevin Dotson,
he didn't look like a rookie.
No. I'm not trying to take anything away from Kevin Dotson. I'm trying to kind of not really take a shot, but criticize Jurrell Casey here. You're a what? He's 31 years old, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL, and you are going against a rookie, and you cannot figure out a way to manufacture some pressure and win a one-on-one matchup. Like, you've got to play better there. Michael Ojemudia struggled in coverage. Justin Simmons had a couple of pretty big gaps in coverage in week 1 against the Titans, like playing out of position, stuff like that. You've got to win some of these one-on-one matchups, especially up front. And Bradley Chubb, I'm not going to try to crap on Bradley Chubb here. Don't get me wrong. He's still coming off that ACL. He's been non-existent in the pass rush right now. And to be fair to him, he's got a bunch of double teams, a bunch of chips, some triple teams as well. The teams are scheming him out of the game, but you got to have something there, man. Like, you're Bradley Chubb. Everyone was saying this is a breakout season for you. And of course you're losing Von Miller, so that takes into some effect there. But at the same time, when you do get a one-on-one matchup, you've got to win it, man. Like, you've got to go out there and be this elite player that we know you can be. Like, if you're not going to win some one-on-one matchups every now and again, you're not going to have success, especially on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, Broncos are in bad need of having an identity. It's like they're lost. I don't really agree that's the case. They definitely have their identity. It's just an issue of their, what's the right word I want to say is that they're just having issues being able to stick with that identity. On offense, they want to run the ball and they control the clock, but they're getting down early and they're not able to, or they're making mistakes and shooting themselves in the foot. Defensively, they want to do what they normally do: rush 4, shut down the passing game, and force teams to run against them. And they're just that, like, each play, it's just that one player that's just making that mistake. And they just got to start working in unison. So they're close to it. It's just a matter of they're just a one player off, basically.
Chris Fernandez has it. The greatest way of putting this here. Thanks, Chris, for joining in. Execution. You just got to execute. Execute your job. Bill Belichick is the most famous person for saying this. Do your job. Like, don't try to freelance it. Do your job, especially in Vic Fangio's coverage scheme. Like, you have to just do your job. Now, Eric, we're at 48 minutes here. Go ahead.
Real quick, there's one thing I want to hear is more blitzing would help the cornerbacks a lot. There's actually been studies about this that shows that's not true. It actually hurts the cornerbacks more, especially in the modern game, because quarterbacks, they're just looking to their fastest receiver or their quickest route runner, and they're just getting the ball out in under 2 seconds. And so your blitzing is actually doing more harm than good because you're taking a guy away out of coverage. And in a lot of cases, too, where that guy comes out of coverage or where he'd most likely be playing coverage is right where the ball goes. It does a lot of harm.
Yeah. All right. Now, Eric, we're at 49 minutes and 49 and a half minutes here, roughly. Let's start to break down this Tampa Bay game just a little bit. What's your biggest key for the Broncos if they want to walk away from Empower Field with a win?
Use KJ Hamler's speed. get his speed impact on the game, get that established early, and utilize that. Even if he's not touching the ball, his speed can impact everybody else. Guys, this is going to go back to pre-draft when I always talked about how Henry Ruggs could impact this Broncos offense. Well, we can do that with KJ Hamler. Yep. We can do what the Raiders are doing with Henry Ruggs and to help Darren Waller with KJ Hamler and Noah Fant. And with Courtland Sutton out, that becomes even more vital because now with Courtland Sutton out of the boundary, Jerry Judy being as inconsistent as he is and not being able to catch the ball consistently, which, guys, it would have been nice if somebody warned you about that. But the thing is that the teams can just crowd the middle now. Noah Fant's getting taken out by bracket coverage. Well, guess what? Now he's getting triangle coverage, triple teamed in coverage, things like that. Guess who's got to clear that out? Guess who's got to keep the safeties back? And this falls on Jeff Driscoll a little bit too. Jeff Driscoll has to take some deep shots. Pat Shurmur has to call those deep shots. They have to get them to respect the speed of KJ Hamler. And another way to get them to do that, motion Hamler every single play. I don't care. I mean, just keep him out on the field, motion him every single play because you're getting him in motion and you're making his speed an even bigger threat. Because when he's moving and you snap it when he's behind the quarterback, you now have to wonder, is he going to get the ball in the handoff or is he just going to turn and run upfield, kind of like a wheel route? You got to do something to make them respect that speed because if you get them to respect that speed, that helps empty out the box, which helps the run game, empties out the clear middle of the field, which helps out Noah Fant, and forces them to respect that aspect. Denver has yet to do that. They haven't done it. Granted, they only had a chance against Pittsburgh. To be fair, he was out against Tennessee. Yeah. But they got to do something. And they didn't do it consistently enough against that. And I understand that they want to bring KJ Hamler along slowly. But he's a gadget player right now. Use him as such.
Put
Deontay Spencer out there too.
Yeah, there you go.
He's got good speed. There we go. Respect both those players' speed.
One thing that I want to argue with on that is there is no bringing on KJ Hamler slowly anymore.
There isn't.
With Courtland Sutton out, Deshaun Hamilton has played marginally at best, and Tyree Cleveland has played very limited role.
Actually, in his Titans game, the only game he played, he actually played really well.
He did play very well, and I was impressed.
And then he was inactive against the Steelers. Like what?
Well, they had Courtland Sutton back. That was the key there.
You want to field your best players out there. Tyree Cleveland should have been. At this point, I have no doubt in my mind that Tyree Cleveland offers more to this Broncos offense than Deshaun Hamilton.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question in my mind because he offers that versatility of being able to run not only fast across the middle of the field, but he can take the top off the defense and he can go
and he can block.
And he can block. So he has three things. Deshaun Hamilton is not the greatest athlete. He's a good athlete. Don't get me wrong. It's like Josie Jewell. Josie Jewell is not the greatest athlete for a linebacker. Deshaun Hamilton's not the greatest athlete for a wide receiver. He's just quicker than fast is probably not the right way of putting that. He's just not fast. It runs very good routes. He's open all the time. And for whatever reason, Broncos quarterbacks just don't throw him the football. But at the same time, he's got to bring something to this offense. And if you're running a 10-yard drag route or a crossing route or a little stick route or a little in route, and that's the only thing you bring because you can't take the top vertically off the defense, what do you offer? You can't bring any speed. There's nothing there. Tyree Cleveland can at least take the top off of the defense. I might actually be able to see him run a jet sweep every now and again. He's got enough speed to be able to do so. And he brings a violent physicality to the game where he can go up. If you target him deep and he has to go up and catch the football, he actually can do that. I don't think Deshaun Hamilton can.
And real quick, Peter says Cleveland was injured. Cleveland was dealing with a hip injury, but he was good to go for the game. He was medically cleared to play. The injury didn't keep him out. It was the coach's decision. So, there was no reason for it. But yeah, he just offers up more versatility, and especially now with Courtland Sutton out, you gotta work that versatility of your offense, and you got to become even more versatile. And in the group chat, and I kind of want to talk about this too briefly before we have to get out of here, is Albert Okwuegbunam. There's no reason why he should be starting over Fant. There's no reason why he should be playing over Van Nett or Butt. And I know a lot of you people in the chat are going to be mad about this, but Albert Okwuegbunam limits what your offense can do. He offers no blocking potential whatsoever at the moment. That is the one thing that has been commented on multiple times as to that's what he's got to work on. Bannett and Butt, I know they're having issues executing out there, but they still offer up that blocking upside and that decent receiving ability. Even so, the Broncos need to draw up about 5 to 10 plays a game where they can get Albert Okwuegbunam out there on the field and use him to stretch the seam. Because guess what, guys? Speed's the name of the game. You got to sit there and use him to help do that.
The one running play that you can run with Albert Okwuegbunam is if you have like a 2nd and 6 and well, if you have a 2nd and 6 and you want to run a draw play, you line up Alberto in the slot and have Noah Fant attached on the line of scrimmage. And if you want to be able to run the football with Alberto on the field, you're going to have to do that. And you're going to run a 2nd and 6. It has to be a 2nd and 6 draw play. Honestly, it has to be that because no one's going to expect that. That's the only way you're going to run the football with Alberto on the field right now. He's just not good enough as a blocker. Vic Fangio put him in the dirt. Not really put him in the dirt, but he actually did have public criticism of Alberto. If he wants to play, he's got to get better as a run blocker. That's a real thing, guys. Let's be honest and be real with each other. So, to me, I would love to see a Noah Fant and Albert O combination in the red zone, especially outside of the 10-yard line. If you're out there, let's say we get 1st and goal at the 17. I want to see Alberto and Noah Fant on the field at the same time. Honestly, I really do. Spread it out, and that's where you can attack and take your shot to the end zone because Alberto, with that big body and the ability to box out that he has at the catch point and to go and run vertically at least and run a post route if he has to, that would be a great mismatch for the Broncos offense. But as soon as you get inside of the 10-yard line, especially inside the 5-yard line where you know you're going to have to run the football, Pat Shurmur, where you know you're going to have to run the football, Alberto loses all effectiveness there. You know that they're going to run a play pass. You know that that's what's coming.
Yeah. And real quick, before we get out of here, I just want to say that with all the injuries that the Broncos have been dealing with, and I know the medical staff's been questioned a little bit, but can we just say we should be thankful they're not as incompetent as the Chargers medical staff. Puncturing the lung of your starting quarterback in a pregame shot. Yeah. What? Good thing Justin Herbert went out there and absolutely played great for a game plan that wasn't even designed for him. Wow.
Kudos to is it still Ken Wisenhunt? Is that still the offensive coordinator in
I don't know who the offensive coordinator is.
I think so. Regardless, kudos to Anthony Lynn and his coaching staff for being able to adapt on the fly and get a rookie quarterback in there and play. He threw for 300 yards, guys, scored 2 touchdowns. It was a great game from Justin Herbert. That's what your coaching staff should be able to do is adapt and overcome when you have a crazy rash of injuries. Your starting quarterback just got announced that he was out of the game an hour before the game even kicked off. And Justin Herbert found out at the final minute, hey, I'm going to go out and play my first NFL game today. And he goes out and throws a gem. It was great. Absolutely great. Bobby jumping in here. $25 super chat. Thank you, Bobby. Great to see you back in the chats, by the way. I hope everything is going well with you and everything as your personal issues. We won't divulge any of that. Awesome pod, guys. Go Broncos. Absolutely. Go Broncos.
And Chargers OC is Shane Steichen. And I can't believe I didn't remember that because that was one guy that I really wanted the Broncos to look at for offensive coordinator a couple of years ago. And I think he's got a bright future in the NFL.
Yeah, well, they did a great job of getting Justin Herbert involved, and that was a game that the Chargers actually should have won. They should have walked out of out of SoFi Stadium with a win that against the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes doing Patrick Mahomes things. The Chargers probably, I don't know, they had a 4th down in overtime that they probably could have went for. Instead, they punted, gave the ball to Mahomes, and he drove down the field, kicked a field goal. But I don't know. I got to give some credit to a coaching staff that's actually able to adapt and overcome when you get some adversity thrown into your face and put your players in a position to actually go out and try to win a football game. Now, not going to continue to take shots. That's just my personal opinion, guys. And I think, you know what? We're going to wrap it up here on that, actually. We are at 59 minutes. So thank you all once again for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Guys, you can follow me at Sanderson MHH on Twitter and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Follow the show as well at DVDD_pod. It's the easiest way to keep in touch with what the Dove Valley Deep Divers have going on. Also, while you're at it, follow at Mile High Huddle. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for instant news and analysis, opinion articles, film breakdowns on your Denver Broncos. It's also the easiest way to keep in touch with what's going on with the entire Huddle Up podcast network, including Building the Broncos, Mile High Insiders, and, of course, everyone's favorite show, the Huddle Up podcast. Well, it should be Dove Valley Deep Divers. Chad, I see you. If you guys are financially able to do so, head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. That's the merch tent, guys. Get yourself a hat, a t-shirt, coffee cup. There's a face mask, some hoodies, something for guys, something for girls, something for the little kids as well. Anything to suit your fancy. If you guys are not financially able to do so, the 3 easiest things that everybody can do to support the Huddle Up Podcast Network is subscribe wherever you guys are watching, specifically on YouTube. Like every video you guys see, and if you love it, share it. Get it out in front of as many Broncos fans as you possibly can, because that is the easiest way for you guys to help the Huddle Up Podcast Network grow. Now, Erick, you got a score prediction for me, bud. What's up? The Broncos going to walk away from Empower Field with a win this week, or are they gonna suffer their 3rd defeat of the season?
They're going to win 107-0. Now, I actually can't remember what my score prediction was, guys. Go check all of the staff's predictions at milehighhuddle.com and the prediction article that we have up there. I know I have Denver winning. I really can't remember by how much. And before we get out of here, I want to say from Greg Smith is enjoy the rest of your weekend, fellas. Everyone who's watching, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend as well.
Greg, I love the shirt, dude. The Let Him Hate shirt. I need to get one of those. I really do. No, for me, I have the Broncos losing this game 27-20, I think is what my final prediction was. I don't like the way that the Broncos play defense against Tom Brady and what he likes to do offensively. I'm not going to
Denver. He likes to lose.
He does like to lose in Denver. Let's be real here. But with what they like to do offensively, it's a mismatch for the Broncos in their defensive scheme. So I have to go with my gut here and say the Broncos are going to lose again. Unfortunately, I really want to see a bounce back game from Pat Shurmur in specific in these critical situations. But with a backup quarterback, missing your top wideout, missing your top pass rusher, another pair of pass rushers as well on the defensive line, and Draymond Jones and DeMarcus Walker, it's just too much for the Broncos to overcome right now, especially with the critical mistakes that they're making in the mental side of the football game. So I can't pick the Broncos to win until they can at least prove me wrong in that aspect of things. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the Dove Valley Deep Divers. You all stay safe, take care, have a great rest of your weekend. Go Broncos, and we will see you guys next Friday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.